Welcome to Winning in the Workplace, where I help executives, managers, and supervisors become great leaders by becoming more aligned and more collaborative with each other and across departments. I am your host, Maurice Velasquez, and we're broadcasting this podcast live on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, on Spotify, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, and now also on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. To find me on these platforms, simply type in Maurice Velasquez or type in Winning in the Workplace. Also, visit me on my website at mauricetraining.com, where you can register to attend my public workshops, book me for speaking events at your upcoming conferences, or how to improve your leadership and management skills with the coming changes of AI in the market. Okay, today we have a great show. I have Henry Hayes, and he's going to talk to us about how to become a disruptor in your space, and specifically how to tackle this new technology called AI to get ahead. I've known Henry for a couple of years, and what he has to say is critically important. He's basically been saying most of us are already way behind. We don't know how to make the right changes at the right time. We have to catch up, especially to this new technology, in order to survive in our space. Henry will be with us in a few minutes. So let's talk about this whole thing called change and change management. All right, so before we bring Henry in, I do want to bring up a particular topic that comes up a lot, and that is the whole issue of change and change management. This is an area of leadership that us as leaders, regardless of your position, executive, middle management, frontline supervisors, change is a big issue. When to make change, when to slow change down. When are we making so much change? We're not doing what we said we were going to do 6 weeks ago. We made a decision 5 months ago to do ABC, and then we're into it. Everybody's getting to the habit of it. And all of a sudden, Maurice reads a new book, or the boss goes to a conference, and they want to change things again. And so there's a wisdom involved in leadership of when is it time to make a change? When is it time to, whoa, hold on. Right now is not the time to make a change. Right now, the time is to do what we said we're going to do and stay in pace of our projects, of what we said we're going to do in quarter one, quarter two, and the consistency of following through is the enemy of change. But yet sometimes you have to look at the landscape and say, all right, so hold on. We're headed this way. And there's some changes in the market. There's some changes in my industry. There's some changes in our hiring, of being able to hire people in our local area. You know what? I think we need to make some changes. So a good leader, again, remember, regardless your title, your position in the organization, a good leader has to look ahead and assess this whole issue of change. Do we change or do we stay pace? Okay. I went to a client site. We're going to talk about leadership alignment. And I walked in and they had a big sign on one of the walls that said this. It said, in quotes, "This is the way we do things around here." And then in bottom, it said, "The worst enemy of our workplace." And I kind of looked at that and I went, you could go both ways with that. If you have an attitude around your workplace that this is the way we do things around here, and you can't open up for change because this is the way we do things, right? Then yeah, you're stuck. Okay. And you're stuck in a lot of ways in which it's just, you need something to make a change. Okay. But yet the other side of that is that same phrase, "this is the way we do things around here," is the very reason why teams are successful. For example, Ferrari Pit Shop, why are they so successful? Because this is the way we do things around here. This is the way we change wheels in a car in less than 3.2 seconds. And we're excellent at it because this is the way we do things around here. And so if you're going to change that, you have to be careful, because you could add 0.8 seconds to that process, and that could be a game-defining difference. So change is a key element to leadership, of knowing when to, when not to, and reading it as to how you're going to sell it, how you're going to introduce it to your people. And always remember this: the folks on the higher of the food chain, okay, the guys and gals that carry a title, executives, upper management, senior, supervisor, the folks that carry those titles, okay, they're more prone to change because they have to look ahead and see, whoa, we see something, we got to make some changes. The folks that are making things happen, they're looking more down at what's happening of the day. So they're not open to change. Why? Because I'm trying to do what we agreed to do 6 weeks ago. I don't see what you're seeing, because the other leaders are the ones perched up, being able to see ahead. So you have to remember that when you introduce new ideas, you say, hey guys, we're going to have to go in this direction, everything. You got to sell it with an advance notice, because you got a chance to take a look and look ahead. You got a chance to think about it. You got a chance to think about the pros, the cons. You spent a week, 2 weeks, and then you're fleshing it out into your voice. But when you introduce it to them, They just heard about it. And yeah, but you're ready to implement. They just heard about it, so we don't give them the same experience of thinking through it. Why? Because we got a chance to think through it. We got a chance to think of the pros and cons, and now we're ready to tell others and sell it and implement it. And we're only giving them 3 days. We're giving them 2 weeks. And then we're wondering, well, why don't you guys want to change? Well, because my world is going to change at a different degree than yours. Why? Because I'm looking down and you want to change this on me. You know what this is going to do to us? And so that's why change is so difficult, because we don't know how to manage change. And yet sometimes, y'all, when we see things coming ahead and you realize we have got to change, there is no such time as having to, quote, sell it properly. But please, we always have to sell it properly. But sometimes in the market, in your industry, in your competitive, all of a sudden your competitor does something incredibly threatening to your company. You have to make a shift change. So knowing how to handle change is an important part of leadership. All right, we'll dive into more of that later. I do not want to keep you guys waiting or holding. Hopefully my team has been giving Henry some coffee. He's in the studio. Henry, you're still here, right? And I say that jokingly because
I'm here.
Hey, you're so patient. You sat through all that.
It's great to be with you, man. You got me excited on deck.
I appreciate that. So I know you heard some of that. So give me your thoughts, man. I mean, you and I talk about this stuff all the time, but that is a major problem in companies. An executive goes to a conference. Hey, guys, I read a new book. They go 3 weeks later, go to another conference. Hey, guys, I read a new book. Hey, guys, I saw Maurice and Henry had a podcast. We got to do that. Then they'll watch another podcast. We got to do that. So we're so change oriented. We disrupt, but yet we have to be disruptors, right? So anyway, I'm not going to redo my talking point. What do you think about all that?
Well, I would say not only are you right, I don't think you went far enough. Look, in years past, you and I are both in our 50s. You're right. These cycles of change waits for no man, and that's always been the case. But the difference now in 2023, as we're doing this podcast in May of 23, is the speed is now, it's at a different level than we've ever seen before. And I dare say it's only going to speed up. Now, you add that to the fact that I've got enough laps around the track now, Maurice, to where I really do think I have a thesis on executives and how they process change, which is, I think the older you get and when technology is involved, I think our brains make a decision very quickly when presented with change, which is fight or flight. And I think a lot of times it's flight, because I think the front of Maurice's brain is saying, hey, man, you don't understand this. This is for the kids. You're not a kid. You're going to look foolish. Run.
I shared with you some things you asked me before the podcast. You asked me, hey, man, what you've been, and I shared with you some things that I'm seeing in my industry, which, you and I are in the same space. The aspect of change is scary. I don't want to mess it up, but I am feeling, not only for myself, but what you're saying is very true. I am feeling the fact that things are happening so fast right now that if we don't learn how to make those things changes for ourselves, we're going to get left behind. We probably already are.
I'm going to challenge something you said, because you fell right into the trap that I've seen. You said change is scary.
Yeah.
And I think, Maurice, if you examine that statement, I think it's a default. Now, that doesn't mean it's not true. But here's the thing. Your mindset immediately you put on catcher's gear right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know you chase and you really devour all things leadership. I think, to me, leading in these disruptive times has got to start with your own mindset. Meaning, even if it's just learning not to judge new things, just to say, I'm not sure about it, but I'm going to give it a chance, as opposed to, oh, man.
Right.
This is scary. It'll never work.
As much as I try to train others and help others, look, do not react to change in that way. Like you said, I fall into that trap. Yep, I'm there. Yeah. So that's a good point.
And you're not alone. Here's the thing. You didn't even make the conscious choice.
No,
your brain said that to protect Maurice.
Correct.
So it's a really interesting phenomenon. So ironically, I think as an older leader, it's a pretty easy hack or a tweak just to say, no, almost like to tell a part of our brains, hey, you're not welcome here today. I don't need your input. I'm going to explore this. And at a minimum, that doesn't mean that you're going to step into and become an acolyte of artificial intelligence. It means you can say, hey, I understand it. I know where it comes from. I know where it's being used. I know where it may disrupt industries, and we're watching closely.
No, that's good. That's very good. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, so the initial reaction to change, I like what you said, don't judge it. look into it, research it, and then make decisions, but dive into the data and don't react against it, which is, yes, I'm facing that because, again, we come back to this whole issue. Things are changing so fast on us, around us, and some things are coming that we're not going to have a say, so we just need to get in front of it or how to run with the whole thing that's happening.
And look, here's the thing. Let's take 2023 out of it. Go to any point in human history, and I can show you what at the time was thought of as radical change. Let's go back to 1908. Henry Ford rolls off the first Model T, which is a mass-produced automobile in Michigan. What do you think the locals thought then, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have anything called an assembly line. This was an internal combustible engine, which replaced the horse and buggy, which had been around for not decades, centuries, right? The point in that story is that was over 100 years ago. All along the way, these interstitial points. Can you imagine, Maurice, your life without an automobile? You want to go back to the horse and buggy?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, yeah.
Right?
No.
How about we're down south being inserted into agriculture? Everyone is always presented with these points of, okay, here's the change. Take the emotion out of it, whether you use it or not. Can you non-emotionally examine, okay, where does the tech come from? Why is it being produced? Who's going to use it? How will it help? What are the pros, cons? If you just do that, you're 95% ahead of your peer group. Just that.
No, that's great. That's great. No, it's a very good point. All right, so everybody, that's why Henry Hayes is Henry Hayes. I appreciate you jumping into that. I didn't even introduce you to everybody for me. I talked about you at the beginning of the show. Man, great to have you on the show. Everybody, this is Henry Hayes. Henry Hayes, thanks for being here. We've used the word disruption quite a good bit. You're a disruptor. It's been I call it change management, but it's more along the lines of disruption. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a quick bio about yourself so as to put things into context, and then let's continue where we left off just 2 minutes ago.
Sure. So I'm a classically trained salesperson. I was in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry for about 20 years of my life, all from a single territory, bag in my hand, all the way up to recruited to help start a small little engine that could out of California, which I helped kind of grow and run for a while. We were able to exit that company with a sale to another company. And so that afforded me some time and resource to do some other things. And right about that time, I began seeing the Blockbuster videos close in my town. That was a very stark, surreal sight. It's like seeing a McDonald's or a Walmart close. You never saw that. And so my intellectual curiosity, Maurice, was so piqued that I drove into the parking lot to figure out, did they fail a health inspection? And we know now what happened. Netflix happened.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because if you really look and dive into that story, which I've done, there were many, many times when the folks at Blockbuster should have course corrected and did not. And so I thought there's a lot of learnings going forward that my friends could learn from that, because I thought at the time, technology is not slowing down, it's speeding up. And boy, was I right. That was 11 years ago.
Right.
I mean, even into this year, Maurice, we've never seen a product. In fact, the most successful product launch in the history of the world happened this year in ChatGPT-4. I decided it's my life's mission to help folks make sense of them. And when I say folks, I mean people who are never going to code for the blockchain or these very technical skills. That's most people. So can they digest it? And then can they use it to help themselves grow? That's kind of what I do.
That's great, man. All right. So I know we're going to talk about how to be a disruptive leader. And I know we have to dive into this whole thing that is artificial intelligence. I went to a workshop last week to talk about artificial intelligence and how it's impacting just the coaching, the content creators, producing, if you're doing your podcast, all the tools out there. And Henry, I came out of there blown away how far things are January 1st when things were first announced with GPT-4 coming out, and how behind already. And so how do we catch up, right? Where do we plug in? I mean, now there's so many places to start. There's so many sites. Well, how do we make sense of all this, man? How do we incorporate it into our companies when I've already experienced what this workshop brought out is the minute you mention it to your people, a lot of your employees will recognize the fact that, I'm going to lose my job soon because I'm going to be replaced. And immediately, there's a lot of hands up, pushback, because we can introduce this in here because it's going to disrupt us at a very negative. So hopefully I set it up correctly. Start wherever you want to start.
So look, a lot of this, it begins and ends with mindset. You have to have the right mind around what's coming. And like I just said, change is not new. Innovation is not new. And frankly, as human beings, we should want innovation. Mm-hmm. But you want to go back to the time where we didn't have penicillin? It's back to my thesis of I think the older you get, you run a lot quicker when you can't process the change working for you. So if you could just press the brakes on that,
Sure.
you're way ahead. All these new tools are intended to make life easier for us humans. Now, I'm not naive, and I don't think that there aren't ethical questions that we need to debate and talk about around a lot of the new technologies, specifically artificial intelligence. And that is fair. In fact, one of my knocks on our current political system is you don't hear anything about that. So these folks need to get in front of this right now.
Correct.
Right? We have about 3 to 6 months to where if they do not, the horses will already be out of the barn, and it's a whole different set of circumstances. But that's for another day. Individually, Maurice, if you value your role as a leader in business, this is a must-have. You cannot stick your head in the sand and say, well, I'm going to come up for air and things are going to be the same, and I'll leave that to someone else. It's the computer in the late 80s, the internet in the late 90s, e-commerce in the 2000s. This is that times 5. So you have to do it. That's true. To me, it starts with the base case of understanding. And it's not harder. It's not as hard as people think, meaning there is a non-technical way to approach all these new technologies, whether it's the blockchain or artificial intelligence or drones or robotics, augmented virtual reality. There's enough information out there that's free, by the way, that people can make sense of it and go, okay, I can see now where this is additive to human society, where it can help me. And here's the key piece. When you do just enough homework, Maurice, you'll say, these technologies aren't going to put people out of a job. People who know how to use these technologies are going to put people.
Yeah. I read someone last week that said something similar, that said you're not going to lose your job or your competitive edge because you didn't know how to use AI. You will more than likely lose competitive edge or your existence as a business because your competitors learn how to use AI.
That's correct.
And that's very different. Look, going back, I went to this workshop 2 hours last week, and they pretty much opened the curtain and showed us behind the scenes what bringing AI into your company looks like. And yeah, those people in our space and in many spaces, they didn't apply just to coaches, consultants, and content creators. They gave the examples of law firms, gave the examples of engineering shops, they give the examples of manufacturing, how the tools are there to make things a lot more streamlined and to get the end results faster. Yeah, I came away going, man, whoever learns to use this is going to be faster at taking care of clients, which is really what they said. We're making too big of a deal. It's simply using technology to take care of problems faster, bring information to clients better, and to assist customers make their lives better. Whoever gets to do that first and fastest is going to head. So, yeah.
That's correct. It's not this scary thing. Look, I speak a lot on this issue, Maurice, and kind of something I see that has developed into kind of a catchphrase or a line to my audience is, look, guys, like there's a line for me. Whatever your industry is, I don't care what it is, there's a line for me. And it's the line of change, meaning there will be people at the very front of the line, middle, back, the end of the line. And each of those choices in that line has cost and consequence. So that's it. But that is happening. Do not kid yourself.
It is going to happen to us. Everybody will have to face this in their own individual industry, in their own company, in their own jobs.
It is going to happen, Maurice. It is happening. So
it's also not a matter then of if, but when, and probably it's happening already now.
So I think the folks that want to stay ahead, throw themselves into the education piece of this. What is it? Where does it come from? Who's using it? All those pretty easy to find out things. And look, even when you do that, you can say, I'm still putting it in my back pocket and we're not going to step into it yet. That's fine. At least you're problem aware. But if you're problem unaware and you don't have that education, what you've done is you've really exposed yourself to somebody else setting the rules for the way you work. And all right,
so because things are happening so fast, there's an urgency to it. But prior to this happening with AI, you were ringing this bell for years. Learn how to disrupt, learn how to recognize to disrupt, when to, how to, when not to, but have a mindset of disrupting things so that you can move ahead when you need to, right? Speak to that, because prior to AI coming along, you were already saying this. And the Henry Hayes that I knew, that I met 2 years ago when I first heard about this, I go, what is this? And it's like when you presented this whole idea of the mindset of being open to being a disruptive leader, changed from that talk. So can you spend a couple minutes just generally speaking, how to move away, how to move more, how to be more open, like you said earlier, how to be more open, how not to reject, how not to prejudge, how to become mentally more of a disruptor so that you can make better decisions.
Yeah, and for me, Maurice, it happened, like I said, as simple as it sounds. It was that Blockbuster deal. When something that is a staple of your childhood, your wonder years, their dating life, your kids' adolescence just gets flipped by a non-traditional. It's one thing if Burger King takes out McDonald's. Okay, that's six of one, half dozen of the other.
Sure.
You gotta understand, Maurice, the guy who started Netflix is like straight out of central casting a nerd, a math nerd. So I thought, wow, that's really interesting. The guy who ran right over one of the biggest brands in that space had nothing to do with the space. That's a radically different way to enter an industry. And that was 11 years ago. So this really started my mind thinking like, okay, if that happened there, what else can be flipped? And the answer is everything. This is really easy for the leaders who follow your podcast, Maurice. If you're a leader, you care about your leadership lid and the effect you have on people and the extent to which they listen to you. This is right down Broadway for you then. Because if you don't have a handle on this or a thesis of how to use this in your career, you're going to lose that credibility. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you have to have it all figured out. In fact, I'd say there's power in vulnerability, saying, I don't know what that is, but I'll be darned if I'm not going to chase it so I can help the both of us. That is leadership to me. Leadership is not saying, well, I've only got 4 years left. I'm going to coast into the sunset and nothing's going to change. And if you're not with me, then that's not leadership.
All right. Yeah, no, that's good. All right. So now we are in 2023. GPT-4 has been announced. We are facing what we're facing now. What are you seeing here for us to pay attention to in the short and in the now? Talk to us about that. And specifically AI, I feel we need to dissect more of that.
This change, the drumbeat has been getting louder and louder over the last, I'd say, really 3 to 4 years. A lot of these concepts of Web3, Maurice, things like the blockchain, decentralized finance, artificial intelligence. But then when late November, early December 22 hit, the game changed. And that's when a company called OpenAI launched ChatGPT-3, which is essentially an artificially intelligent program. So imagine, for those of your folks who don't know what it is, you're having a conversation with something that up until 2021 had trillions of bits of data, everything ever written or produced in the world, it knew, right? So you could have some pretty interesting conversations with this interface, and it's one-to-one. That's the other interesting.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever personally sat down and had a conversation with GPT about any topic?
Oh, Maurice, we were on this day one. We knew the beta was coming out, so we've been doing this for 6 months now.
I did it about 2 weeks, mid-January. Blown away. I've been having conversations with GPT about all sorts of topics ever since then. It's amazing. It is utterly amazing what I'm learning. And it's clear to me, it's a one-on-one, right? I'm actually talking to them about what I want to talk about, and it's actually giving me back relevant information.
And so that reaction you just had, you hear speakers say, like, first batter, first inning. Maurice, the singer for the national anthem is warming up. So we're so early still, which means the fascination you had with what you think its outcome ability is, it's not even close. Meaning, so I'm a lifelong sales guy. Right? Relationships are my stock and trade. A lot of the skill sets I've had in my career are going to be outsourced and done better by this technology. And so a guy like me needs to get my head around, okay, how do I use it? If I'm a B+ player, how do I use it to make me an A+? Speed me up, make me more productive. And that's what the winners with the right mindsets are thinking.
About 20 minutes into this workshop, I am blown away, Henry, because they cut off another lady who was co-presenting, and she said, just to let the cat out of the bag, up until this point, all of you have been interacting with our company through our AI avatar. And I was going, wait a minute, I've been interacting with your company for 3 weeks now. Phone calls, emails, follow-up, calendar invites, emailed questions. I've had people call me back. I did. One of the other people said, so all that was your AI? And they said, yeah, all that was our AI intelligent tools, knowing our products, our process, interacting with you, and y'all couldn't tell. Now, here I am a human being. Of course, what somebody said, how do I know that? How do I know that you're a human being? So, of course, but man, never, this was last week, Henry. This was last week. I thought GPT was this great informational source where I can find about whatever topic. No, it's not. This is a radically different approach to redesigning your business and moving things faster.
Yeah, like I said, look, the internet, the idea of e-commerce, the computer, we all know the ripple effect that had on a society. This is bigger. It is. And it will prove to be. Because all the stuff you see mainstream, Maurice, you don't see what's going on behind the scenes.
What do you mean by that?
All the venture capital money is going towards AI-driven approaches. That's what we see here. Worldwide, the activity around this it's breathtaking. And so that's why I say now is the time to get your head around it so you can kind of get in the game, because it's going to change everything.
So I own an air conditioning company. I'm a carpenter. I'm a small business. I have 5 people. I have 15 people. I have 20 people. I hear this podcast. You and Maurice what do I do as a young entrepreneur, as a business owner? Where do I start? How do I get ahead? Where do I go to either locally? You and I are recording, but if I don't have local resources, where do I go? Or if I have, where do I go? How do I move in the next step? What do you recommend?
Okay, so it's a great question. Head out of the clouds, hands in the dirt. That's how you do it. So the question should be.
Say it again. Say it again. Can you set out for a second?
A lot of this new stuff, it's a safe place to be to talk about how cool AI is, right? It reminds me, when I was in my late 20s, I was standing in line at a bookstore. It was the 9th book, Maurice, that I had purchased on how to buy rental property. And in that line, my inner voice said, bro, I think we got the tenants down. Go put the book back, go buy a property. In other words, quit talking, start doing.
Head out of the clouds, hands in the dirt. That's what you mean.
It's an easy topic to hide behind. Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So head out of the clouds, hands in the dirt, fingernails in the dirt. So how do you do that? So you ask one question. If I'm that plumber or that air conditioning owner, how can I use this to make more money?
Correct.
So the subcategories in there, I'd say, how do you get your leads? How do you follow up with customers who have used you? How do you communicate with your customers? How do you set your schedule? All those things are low-hanging fruit that we can do today. That's the easy stuff.
What do you mean by that? But hold on, back it up. I'm sorry. What do you mean that we can do that today? You're making it sound like we're recording at 11 o'clock on a Friday. What do you mean today?
Yeah, like today, there are uses in artificial intelligence, which are pretty easy, which can create, let's say, for instance, that air conditioning guy wanted to get a little more aggressive with his advertising and the message he sends to potential customers, right? You can create a 30-day LinkedIn posting schedule, 100% created by the AI, in your voice, tone, down to the customer segment. Do it for you in nanoseconds. So all the guy has to do
a 30-day step-by-step. Where I'm bringing the client through this 30-day.
No. A 30 days. So 30 days in a row, I am going to tell the world why my air conditioning company is awesome and you should use us.
Okay, got it.
So just copy 2 sentences for 30 straight days. It'll write it and then it'll post it for you. And then you can go one further and say, all right, now based on what you just did, create a tweet storm where I can do the same. So if that person has a Twitter handle, it'll do the same thing at whatever time that air conditioning guy wants. A tweet storm will go out 30 days in a row.
So is it because it's gotten to know you and now it knows you and it just feeds off of what you've given it before, so it just knows how to, is that the basis of this?
Okay, this is a great question about AI and ChatGPT-4. No, it knows that because it's what I put in to get out. So the prompts, I'm glad we're talking about this. My company, Maurice, we've started training and placing prompt engineers into businesses. Prompt engineers. Now, what is that? That is a person that can go 3, 4, 5 layers deep to do what I just told you, right? Like that. The owner of that air conditioning company shouldn't have to learn that skill, but he does need to be wise enough to go, I need to employ that guy so he can do it for me.
I don't have to learn how to do this, but I need to bring somebody on board that knows how to use AI to help me get there.
Exactly. That is. But think about this, Maurice. Think about the ripple it's already we felt. I just gave you a job title you've never heard of. And most listeners haven't either.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
I'll give you one more. So that's the prompt engineer, junior prompt engineer. The difference, these guys, the prompt engineers, have a little bit of what's called Python, which is that's the coding system, a language that most of this is written on. The juniors, none of it.
So this is going to have a direct, immediate impact to social media specialists, advertising agencies. No?
For sure. If you have any portion of copywriters in your business, correct, 100%, you need to take a good hard look.
Okay. I'm blown away. Normally I have a better questions to add. I'm blown away.
Well, and let me tell you this. Other little things, Maurice, let's go back to the air conditioner owner. Okay. That guy, if his business is good, he's busy and he's probably understaffed. And if his customers like him, if I ask that guy 2 questions. Number 1, how many customers have you serviced in the last year? Let's say he says
32.
How many?
300.
Okay, 300.
That's fine. 300.
How do you communicate with those people who you've already done work for? Because it's air conditioning, right? We live in South Louisiana, which means
it's random. It's random. I'll role play with you. It's random. It's needed. I have a little newsletter that goes out, but it's, something like that.
What if we could design a communication pattern with those people to at least just say, hey, it's Maurice from Maurice's Air Conditioning. I know we're about to head into winter. Here's what you need to do from a maintenance perspective. You know my number. Call me if you need me. Pleasure to serve you. Right? He doesn't do that today because he doesn't have time, right? This can do it in nanoseconds.
Nanoseconds. All right. Challenge for the sake of a good conversation, but also for you to educate me here. Today's May 12th. When you say nanoseconds, as a business owner, I'm sitting going, okay, well, Henry, I could just hire a media marketing person and they'll help me do it. But you're saying this can be done in nanoseconds. Today's May 12th. Role play with me. By when could I have something to look at to implement what you just said? It's going to help my air conditioning company. Next week?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
All right. You want to really do this the right way? I'll show you. Let's do this live. This is never done before, but I want you to take me up on this. All right. So this is on my phone. Can you see that?
I can see that. Okay. There you go. Got it. There it is. Okay.
That is the Chat GPT interface on my iPhone. Can you see that?
Pull it back just a bit. There you go. Okay. All right.
Can you read that or can you see it at all?
No, it's too bright, but that's all right.
All right. Here's the point. At my fingertips, it would take me 2 minutes to think about, okay, Maurice's air conditioning company. Again, what you ask it is pretty important. So you need to that's where prompt engineers, of which I'm one.
Okay, so that's where the prompt engineer comes in. You got to know how to ask the prompt.
Exactly. But
okay,
look,
keep going.
Okay, keep going. So I could type that in right now for you. I'll go you one better. I think you're going to be okay with what I'm about to do.
Sure.
I know you, and I know that you're going to be trying some new things in your career.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting to hang up from this call to get him. Yes, I am. Of course I am.
So you're going to need new collateral that tells the world what Maurice is doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, brother. There's nothing more you can use that's easier and better than that.
Let's put some meat on these bones. That collateral means flyers. That collateral means a one page. That collateral means my landing page. The collateral means the email that's going to be generated from that one page to send out to my 15,000 content database. Yep. What's that email going to look like? All those are deliverables. Those are collaterals that I spend on. And I have some individuals that do this. What are you saying?
I'm saying it's all what you just said and more. Because
what's more? Video? Like, go ahead and generate a 2-minute video based on that.
I'll give you an example that I've done.
Okay.
So when we saw, this is about 2 months ago, when we saw the proliferation of this and what it could do, that's when we created our own prompt engineer certification, all done through Chat GPT. I asked it in pretty specific language to Maurice, create a certified program, modules and all, complete with quizzes and answers that would certify someone to become a prompt engineer. It created the whole thing.
In record-breaking speed.
Once I input it, it gets to work immediately. It took maybe 45 seconds. Now, So I copy and paste it, and then I do. There's a little editing. Most of it,
you have to make it sound more like you and edited, but it's not. You're starting from scratch, and you're paying somebody to start from scratch.
correct. No, it's going to surpass speed and everything else of a human.
I have a colleague who's a programmer, and he's already feeling it. He does custom programming for companies, and he's already feeling it. This thing is pumping out fully written programs in code, algorithms that are equally or better than human beings, and it's pumping them out within 2 minutes.
Yep. In some cases, less. Then there are things called API integrations, which, not to get too technical, but this can go pretty deep. So that posting schedule that I mentioned on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, etc., can all be done automated. So
as a business owner, you just took care of my biggest problem, which is lead generation on one end, and then how to stay in contact with my existing customers or my existing database on a regular basis. Both sides of that, kind of like I said, the bookends. Mm-hmm. On one end, you've helped me bring in more business. On the back end, you've helped me take care of my existing business. So I definitely see how that can be revolutionary. In between, what else? Speak to it a little more. I know we're wrapping up, but man, I can see how this could be 5 podcasts, So that's my invitation for a next one. Okay.
Yeah. And look, I mean, there's not an industry, Maurice, that this won't have its hooks in. And it all starts with mindset. Get your head right on it, including once you know it, it doesn't mean you have to use it, right? But you're ahead of the crowd if you say, no, I understand it. For your business owners out there, Maurice, I'm going to really rock their world. If you can say to potential and current clients, we have a house thesis or a house one-pager here at Business X on this technology, I'd be happy to share it with you. So yes, do you understand the difference in saying, well, my kid said something about it, but I don't really know much, or we've done a little bit of work, we have a house thesis on it, we know what it is. Do you see the difference?
Yeah, I do.
And just how that comes across as informed, and that's table stakes. It needs to be more than that. But yeah, that's the mindset's got to get people started. ChatGPT is one of what's called an LLM. That's the family it's in, large language model. So there's Bard, B-A-R-D is Google's LLM. There's one called Cohere. I mean, there's a lot of these, and there's more on the way. So that's why I say now's the time to get in the game.
All right. So it's clear what you're diving into. How do we go from here? People finish this podcast. You've given us a lot to go do. People want to talk to you. Where do we reach you? How do we find you? What's the best way to connect with you and say, hey, man, come talk to me some more about this? Yeah,
sure. So my website is henryhaysconsulting.com, and it's Hays. There's no E in Hayes. There's a kind of a book me button there, or reach out. I'd be happy to help people with this. Yeah, that's the easiest way.
Cool. All right. Tell us anything, whatever you feel we should have said that we left on the table. Closing statement, anything you want to leave us with?
I want to say this because I've known you now, Maurice, for a few years. We've done some work together, which means I have watched you, and I don't even think you're aware of this, your growth. You are subconsciously disrupting yourself, your own game, because you and I had to sit down about this very thing. And I pushed you to say, you need to take a look at podcasting.
That was October of 2022.
There you go. And I've had a lot of those conversations. You actually took me up on it. So I really want to kind of tip my hat. Look, you and I are kind of both of what I'd say, probably the half times of our professional careers.
Yeah.
And I think people make choices at that point, but I'm really proud of you as a friend.
Oh, man.
For digging in and saying, because it's not easy. No. Growth is inevitably, it happens. You're going to say, oh man, this is hard. I don't understand this. Maybe this is for the younger people, but I see you pushing through that. And there's nothing better as a leader than an example. It's one thing to talk it. It's another thing to do it. And I see you doing it. So
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Kudos. And thank you for your help. You know how hard it's been whenever you and I first talked about it in October. Yeah, just going through that. No, but thank you for the pushes. Thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to the next 6 months. I am taking very seriously everything. Today, I can tell you this podcast has connected a lot of dots. I can't say I have my head in the clouds. I am in the talking phase, and I need to get my hands a little dirtier because it is moving so fast that I want to be responsible to me and my teams to move the business ahead, right?
Yep. Well, today you took the first step. So it's the next step after that. And here's the thing. You're going to reach a point where the snowball begins to roll downhill, and that's when it gets fun.
But you know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. I'm going to turn off the recorder. You're getting a phone call.
Yeah.
So be ready for a coffee, man.
Let's do it.
Forget a coffee. We have to run out of CC's and just talk the whole day there. Hey, man, thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
This is great. Yes, open invitation, but I'm not just going to leave it general. I'm going to invite you to come back again and let's do a check-in. Let's see where things are at. This is huge. This is big. This is important. So I appreciate you being a catalyst in my own profession, but for all listeners on how to do this, man, appreciate you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, man. Thank you, Gus. Remember, my podcast is every Friday at 8:15 Central. Coming up next week, I will have Paige Gagliano, an incredibly talented and successful theater director who is now using theater and acting techniques and exercises to help leaders and managers build better connections and more collaboration. Then after that, we have Dan Gray, a COO in the movie theater world. Then we have Jim Nelly, David Day, John Shirk, Joanne Wilson, and a host more. You can see the whole lineup on our website, winningintheworkplacepodcast.com. Winningintheworkplacepodcast.com. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to that link and fill out the guest form. I would love to have you on the show. Remember, great leadership is about how you treat people, how you develop them, and how you support and empower them to succeed. At the core of leadership, of all that I just said, is showing a united front with the other leaders in your organization. In other words, being on the same page. Leadership is about being on the same page, speaking as a united message along with your leadership peers, being a cohesive team. Leadership alignment is what makes the difference. And by doing it well is how you and your teams can win in the workplace. Thank you for joining me. See you next week.